thing about this that's just, it's like, guys, really? These are licensed attorneys. These aren't just like normal people on Twitter.
No.
When a non lawyer makes a legal opinion on Twitter and turns out to be wrong, everybody goes, "Yeah, you didn't know what you're talking about." These dipshits are burning their credibility for no good reason. Why? I mean, is the dopamine that good?
Well, it probably is, but probably also has to do with the $200,000 that's now pocketing. Just so you know. Okay, well, I shouldn't say pocketing is the right word, but he's certainly getting paid handsomely for what he's doing with Vic. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not happy about these developments with this whole kick I stand with Vic thing in response to the kick Vic incident, where, for those who don't know, I've talked about this before. I've said that I've been very incredulous about this thing. And looking deeper into it, yeah, I was right to be incredulous. So a quick recap for those who are unaware. Vic Mignogna is a popular voice actor for Funimation and other roles. Like he had a gig with Rooster Teeth, and he also had a gig with Riot and other anime productions. If I recall correctly, he was the voice of a prominent character in Full Metal Alchemist of the dub. And unfortunately for him, he was also a Christian. So, as such, and he was open about it. So when he'd go to cons and stuff, he'd talk about his views and such, and he'd go, "Hey, this is what I believe in," etc., and so on and so forth. People labeled him a homophobe, sexist, racist, etc. Just the usual. Just take the worst possible, most uncharitable interpretation. Just basically destroy the guy's reputation through combination of like detraction and lies, essentially. Um, or maybe lies, maybe not. I honestly, most of the allegations are either incredulous themselves or they're unsubstantiated. Honestly, I'm just like, I am a believer of though where there's smoke, there's fire. However, I'm not really going to cast guilt or innocence upon Vic Mignogna. A lot of people have this thing in their head that he's innocent, so let's leave it at that. The real problem, the real issue that I'm having with this whole Kickstarter thing, this whole GoFundMe, this this idea that everyone should just go ahead and give these two chucklehead lawyers lots and lots of money, is they're completely incompetent, and the case is probably going to be completely and utterly thrown out. And I'll just go over some of the things tonight. I'll try to throw up as many links as possible. There's just a lot of material to go over, so I might be missing a lot of things that are not right here in front of me. The first thing I want to get out of the way, though, is there seems to just be this naive idea that if someone is a lawyer, if they have like a degree and like a title next to their name, that makes them like a pope, and they're suddenly infallible, and they're suddenly the most honest and trustworthy sources to boot. No, this is complete and utter rubbish and nonsense, because let's just start with the facts. Just because you have a law degree in one state and you have a licensed bar in a place, that doesn't mean shit. For one thing, it just means you have a particular law area and particular practice in a particular field. It is so incredibly easy to get a law degree. Anyone can do it. You could be a constitutional lawyer, like Mike Cernovich has alleged in the past, although he may have been lying about that. You could become a very niche field, like financial law or some kind of paralegal or something like that. It is very easy to just bullshit by just saying, "Oh, I have a law degree." Like, not that everyone can be a lawyer, but someone who's a lawyer can just say, "Yeah, that's my bargaining, that's my dunk point, or to win arguments on the internet." The other thing is, I mean, if a guy has a law degree in Minnesota and he's commenting on Texas law, does that make him like an extremely reliable source on that matter? Maybe for general U.S. law, maybe, but like Slick Nick, that'd be Mr. Nick Rekieta. Um, guy in chat says he's the voice of Brawly, Edward Elrich in FMA, Zap Barnigan in 2016 in Futurama. He did the voice of Pro in RWBY, bunch of others. Yeah, like he has a lot of he has a long track record of being Vic Mignogna has a long track record of being in the industry, and maybe it is so this and it's and you know what, just to be as charitable as possible here to Mr. Vic Mignogna, it's probably the case that most or all the allegations. I'm not going to say probably. I'm just going to say there's a very good chance that the allegations are just false. Here's the issue I have with the lawsuit. The issue with the lawsuit is its effectiveness in actually doing its stated goal and actually accomplishing things. It's not going to work. And the reason it isn't going to work is because the target of my ire was initially Nick Rekieta, who, by the way, has a direct benefit from doing this. He's not this altruistic guy. And when I say a direct benefit, I mean him launching this fundraiser right here, you know, putting his face right on here and doing this thing. He gets to brag about that and use it as a selling point. You're not going to convince me and tell me that raising $200,000 isn't something you can't put on a resume to get a job somewhere in like social media marketing in the future. Like, you're going to tell me that he's not directly benefiting from this? Get out of here. When it comes to what he, so, and again, you have to watch out for these people. Like every single one of these YouTubers, and I'm not excluding myself from this. If I ever start dealing with any kind of financial stuff, I want people to treat me with the same level of credulity and distrust that I would encourage people here to distrust other people. Like this, but is it the case that like, you know, any kind of making money is just wrong? No. But with this Nick Rekieta guy, what is he doing? He's raising funds for a lawsuit to own the SJWs. Has this ever worked? It's never ever worked before. The only thing I can think of was the only actual case I could think of was actually, believe it or not, the Quartering actually got some tranny to settle with him after the tranny beat him up and he lied about it. But that's kind of like a fringe, really niche scenario. The stuff that people sue SJWs for is stuff that's not illegal. Morally reprehensible? Probably. In fact, yes. Not just probably. Like, even if the accusations are true, there's no doubt in my mind that the people forwarding these accusations are doing so just because they don't like his politics and they don't like his views, and they don't like the fact that someone's going to have like a judgmental is going to be a bit judgmental over the degeneracy. They can't stand that kind of shame. And so in a position of power, that's a problem. So yeah, I'm not siding with the kick Vic people. I'm not advocating that Vic gets kicked out of every convention. But this idea that you could just take an event like this and just milk it for cash while promising people that, oh, guys, we're totally going to do this to save anime or save whatever niche little thing, when all you're doing is just a bunch of nothing. No, that kind of stuff is just horseshit. It really is. And if you believe in Hope and Nick for 1 minute, I mean, just take a look. Something I missed the first time I saw this. Right here. Right here. This little line here. This fund is set up for Vic's legal defense fees. This is a lie. This is an outright lie. And it may seem pedantic to point this out, but it's not. What it should really say is this fund is set up for Vic's plaintiff fees. He's prosecuting. Vic is not in the defense chair. This is a very relevant thing because one of the themes that Nick and Ty Beard have said on their show is that essentially when it comes to prosecute, like, innocent until proven guilty. Well, it's very hard to be innocent until proven guilty if you are in the prosecution. If you are the person that's actually doing the suing. If you're making demands of someone else having wronged you and placing them in the hot seat. In that case, in that case, yeah, the questionably guilty party is the person being sued, including in defamation cases. It doesn't change that. Because while they might be making unsubstantiated allegations in the public sphere or whatever, in court, you have to prove they are liars. The default is not they are liars and they have to prove their innocence. That's not how the legal system works. And Nick knows this. Nick is not some dumb, aloof, goofy guy from Minnesota. He knows basic shit, because I knew this basic shit long before this stuff came out. And other lawyers have come out and called him out. And yeah, a lot of them are left-leaning or liberals or whatever, but they're still correct. It doesn't change the facts that the law isn't this big blob of putty that you can just interpret any way you want. You get a magical result. The case is bullshit. And if you're not like, and let me see if I can get some other things up here. Some other things that had me looking about a bit. See, Ty Beard is really the clincher for me. The thing that makes me go, not just, yeah, this is suspect, to, yeah, this is horseshit. This is complete bullshit. Uwe asks, what implications are you making about Nick? I'll just outright say it. I think Nick is a con man, and he's taking your money. And if Nick thinks that I'm libeling him or whatever, I'd love to find out. I'd love to find him to try to sue me. Because you know what? When you're going ahead and you're lying in GoFundMe's, like, to get money, nah, that's not libel. That's just the fucking truth. And the truth is, Nick knows what the fuck he's doing. Like, you go ahead and you listen to his live streams, you listen to him prattle on about bullshit over and over again about how this is such a magnificent case and that this is such a revolutionary thing. And you just know that guy's a snake oil salesman. And you know someone like him is just like, the term grifter has been thrown around a lot lately lately. Yeah, it applies to him 100%. This lawyer that they shows, like, it's funny. I compare this to like the Honey Badger thing. And the big mistake of the Honey Badger thing, they got like a lawyer who didn't know what he was doing at all. Or actually, no, it was a discredited lawyer. So it's not exactly the same thing. But still, the key with this issue, like the Honey Badger one, was the lawyer thing. Oh, there's also a lot of other factors of the Honey Badger thing. So people might be not like that comparison too much. But nonetheless, there was a thing. There was several allegations written in essentially they're cease and desist letters effectively, but they're the actual acronym for is TDMA letters. The thing is, and I'm not sure if I don't know if Nick's covered this or not. I don't care. The thing that I've heard from the people who are in favor of this stuff is that they're legit because, oh, well, it's 4D chess, which is just stupid. TCPA? No, not TCPA. TCPA refers to that's a sentence. What the TCPA is like essentially it's a motion to dismiss. The thing about this is the early stages when Ty Beard originally came on the scene. He sent letters to them, ostensibly they're cease and desist letters, but they have a technical term for them in Texas based on an act of law. I forget exactly it, but there's a few lines in particular that I want to highlight. They've been highlighted elsewhere. Let's see. Sent 3 of them, so. Okay. All right, give me another second. Get back to that in a sec. Okay, so some other things that I want to point out. Find that. Actually, there is some. Let me just get a couple things first. All right, so I can't find the source right now, but I will pull it up. I will show on screen to show that I'm not bullshitting about this because this is something utterly ridiculous that if this was any other case, you'd say that, well, nobody would actually say that. Like, one of the things that Ty Beard, this genius defamation lawyer, is suing like Funimation people over is apparently one of them called him one of them called Vic a piece of shit. And that's the reason, and that, he says, a defamation. I'm not joking. The very first thing they teach, like, if you go ahead and do, like, if you try to become a lawyer or anything like that, if you take tort, if you take any kind of class on tort, which includes defamation, they'll tell you right off the bat that like opinions about like things that are not statements of fact are not actionable at all. Like if that were the case, every comedian ever would be sued because comedians use all kinds of profanity all the time. This is an utterly ridiculous charge that they would actually say, "Oh yeah, you're calling me a piece of shit. Oh well, I'm gonna sue you for that." And no, I'm not. I'm not joking. Actually, just to be very specific, it is being called a pile of shit. I I don't get why anyone would think that's good. Like, even if you're not familiar with defamation law, you should probably think twice before sending something like that. That's just embarrassing and humiliating. And that right off the bat should be enough. But there's more than that. There's another one. The other thing that this Ty Beard has put in there. Axis Fiver says, I do want Vic to win though. Well, here's the thing. The only way that Vic could possibly win is if there was a sudden change, if there was a magical change in our laws which benefited Vic. And there's a very good argument that they should be changed. Because, frankly, the whole thing comes down to a case called New York Times versus Sullivan. And it just makes it, essentially, it makes it in, for most of the time, that essentially it makes it that way you have to prove the person knowingly lied or had an extreme what's known as a reckless disregard of the truth, which that basically makes defamation cases almost impossible to win in the U.S. Tainted So asks, didn't the person say it to a con organizer, try and get Vic tossed off a con? That's how they're going into tortorious interference. See, that's the issue with tortorious interference. What everyone leaves out is the tortorious part of it. Interfering with a contract by itself is not illegal so long as you're well within your rights to do that. For example, if you want to send a complaint to some company that so-and-so did X horrible thing, if you are not acting in a way that's essentially illegal, then not guilty of tortorious interference. If that were the case, that charge, tortorious interference, be used all the time against a whole lot of people. Like, that would be used right away whenever one of these incidents happen where a bunch of people get together and get someone fired. Like Roseanne Barr would not be fired from ABC if that was the case, as an example. What's his name? That other guy. Like a bunch of other people would not be fired, or at the very least, they'd sue their companies that fired them for lots and lots of money. Yeah. So in this particular case, that's also another interesting thing because, actually, I do want to actually play a video featuring Nick making this point, which I have. Okay. So let me see. That's it. Okay, I'm not sure if this is it or not. I'm gonna play it anyway to give an example of the kind of argumentation that Nick uses. But just expand on that real quick. Tortorious interference requires there to be a tort violation in the first place. If they can't prove defamation, there is no tortorious interference. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, anyone telling you otherwise is lying. And that includes in the state of Texas. Because there's this kind of this weird argument that they have that it's the opposite of that when court cases directly refute that. And it's just this bizarre mentality that these people have that they're clinging on to this idea because they've been sold a bill of goods. They paid money into this thing, and that's the thing. The real tragedy in this. It's not these SJWs being sued. Fuck them. I don't care if they. If Vic magically wins the case, good. Fuck those guys. I don't like them by one bit. I don't care. I don't care if anyone complains that, oh, well, that'd be a miscarriage of justice or whatever. I don't give a shit. If I'm wrong about that, I'll be happy to be wrong. I'll be happy for Nick to say, ha, see, I told you so. And, like, he gets a little modicum of justice in this world. That'd be fine by me. But the reality is that's not going to happen. That's a fairy tale. It's not. The reality is that you can't win these cases like this. Oh, and also the other argument they like to bring up is like the conspiracy charge as well. Conspiracy, you have to be doing something wrong for the conspiracy to be wrong in itself. So again, so in order to prove, so it's like it's kind of like it falls back to defamation, which is what this is ultimately about. And ultimately, defamation does not work the way that these guys are portraying it as at all. Now, let me see. I think this is a good example of Nick giving some kind of like this double think kind of argument. Let me just go there.
Did you guys?
Okay, yeah. Let's play that video because let's listen to the part of this.
See Toye? Do you guys see Toye's brilliant tweet where he says, actually, I had no idea what's in the investigation. Oh, thanks, Ron.
This is also another theme of Nick Rekieta's. He likes to be as entertaining as possible while he law-splains things on live streams, and he does this by getting drunk, by being as smug as fuck. Like, smugness on this guy is like half a Mala meme. It is ridiculous how smug this guy is. He's so churin about it. Like he pretends he knows what he's talking about, while he's just trying to be as entertaining as possible, convince people that way. Like, it's just utterly absurd.
Now you have just another piece of evidence pointing to actual malice. Let me explain this for the audience. You know how they keep saying defamation cases are really hard to win, especially for a public figure? That's for something called the public figure doctrine, which came out New York Times versus Sullivan. I believe it was 1972 or 7 or something. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. New York Times versus Sullivan. All right. Public figure.
Okay. I'd like to point out here, there's another video where Nick Rekieta goes over New York Times versus Sullivan, like a several-hour video. He knows, he's read this case. He's not unfamiliar with the standard here. So this is a case of where he just didn't do his research. He knows New York Times versus Sullivan.
Doctrine states that if someone is a public figure, which used to really only mean government official and then the most famous person you could possibly imagine, a literal, like a paparazzi magnet, a Michael Jackson, right?
This is another point. This is wrong. A public figure does not have to be known by absolutely everyone in order to be a public figure. Whoever said that is it's just complete nonsense. As I stated at the beginning of the stream, Vic Mignogna, which again, he's rated at $4 million. The guy is like huge. And the guy is also going to a ton of conventions, getting a ton of work in the anime industry. He's highly recognized by his peers in the industry and by the public. You have adoring fans going to these events over and over again. If that's not enough for you, Ty Beard himself said that he was a public figure. So anyone pushing this idea, so unless you want to argue that Ty Beard himself is incompetent, well, you're doing my work for me in that case. But realistically, Vic Mignogna, any lawyer worth his salt will tell you, and I emphasize, any lawyer worth his salt will tell you that this guy is a public figure by the state of Texas and by federal law. Like, if they want to argue that if they want to make this ridiculous argument that it has to be known by absolutely no one or be a public figure, that is the most absurd and incredulous argument that's not even worth that it just becomes not even worth addressing. Although you can bring up case law if you're savvy enough.
Someone who, if you were walking down the street, everybody who saw them would know who they were. That was a public figure. That was a public figure. Nowadays, they're trying to say everybody on Twitter with more than 500 followers is a public figure, but that's a different thing. Let's just accept it as true. A public figure has to prove actual malice to prevail in a defamation claim. That means that they have to prove knowledge of the falsity or a reckless disregard for the truth. Okay? Knowledge of the falsity or reckless disregard for the truth. Hello, enter Ron Toye, who spends 2 to 3 months talking about an investigation over and over and over, potentially, allegedly being in contact with cons and other people about this investigation, encouraging them to kick Vic, right? Now, Heat gets turned up on Ron. He gets sued. He freaks out because the little boy is scared out of his mind, and you can tell it's written all over every tweet with every emoji. The man is terrified. So what's he do? Maybe on advice of counsel, maybe on his own, he comes out with his tweet that says, actually, I don't know what's in the investigation. Well, Ron, here's the problem. That either means that you know that what you're insinuating and implying about the investigation is a falsity because you don't know what's in it. So even if you call it he's being investigated for sexual harassment or assault, you don't know what's in it. You just said that. You just knew that there was an investigation. Maybe they were looking for his cat. How do you know? Maybe Mars Girl ate it. How do you know? You don't know what's in it. All right. So then, even if that's not knowledge of the falsity, which I'd contend it definitely is, it is certainly a reckless disregard for the truth to leak information that you don't have about an investigation to imply that someone is a sexual predator. That is 100% reckless disregard.
No, it's not. There's just not this guaranteed certainty that's a reckless disregard for the truth. Like, remember how it was emphasized in New York Times versus Sullivan? To give a gist of what that case was about, there was an ad published in New York Times that was very critical of like the Southern Police District, and they made a bunch of claims that were just bullshit. They made up a lot of stuff, exaggerated the truth a lot, and the sheriff's department was like, fuck this, we're suing the New York Times. And God bless them, they should have won that case, honestly. But it was challenged, and it went up to the Supreme Court. Because this was the 60s and was full of libshits and liberals, the standard was then changed. And even though the New York Times published articles which contradicted the ad, that didn't matter. That didn't count as reckless endangerment of the truth. And so the problem here is that he's saying, oh, well, this guy doesn't know what's in the investigation, therefore he doesn't know anything about the investigation. You see that leap he made? The problem there is that the defense lawyer is going to argue, and he's going to be correct about this. He's going to argue that he is going to argue that like it's not reckless endangerment because he knows that there was the conclusion of the investigation. He doesn't have to know all the details in the process of it. So again, this is bullshit. This is complete nonsense that he's going on about. And he's not going to win with that. I can guarantee it, or I can at least near guarantee it. There is a slight like you could argue like that's the funny thing about the word possible. You know, you could be pedantic and just say, oh well, you know, anything's possible. Yeah, you know what? Technically speaking, it is possible they could win this case, and I missed something. But given all the evidence and facts and such, given the fact that Ty Beard was laughed out of court, essentially. Like, yeah, you didn't know about that one, did you? You didn't know that Ty Beard made a fool of himself in a courtroom. Like, Nick Rekieta put his own spin on this, but it's like there was already a hearing on this where the major players got involved, and here it is. This person, like, and this faggot was able to screenshot it because I couldn't find the original PDF for it. Like, this is the initial hearing for this case. He's attending, Mr. Ty Beard, Mr. Jim Bullock. Floyd asks, why not hit up Nick and discuss it with him instead of the snake tactics? I don't think you understand that it's not being a snake. I've called out Nick Rekieta before. Like, I don't like the thing about these. In fact, I think I've actually quoted him, called him out on his bullshit. The thing is, like, and I have made tweets where I believe he's tagged in. Regardless, I don't owe him to contact him at all. If he wants to respond, he can respond. But one thing I'm not doing is I'm not going to help out his show. Like, I know he's begging for a guest to come on his show to argue with him so he can make more money as he rubs his hands together and goes together and lies to people. Like, such pieces of shit don't deserve that. Like, if he wants to talk, he can come to me. But he's not going to do that because this is a game about getting as many clicks and as many views as possible, which is also why he's making as many friends for the usual suspects. Like, for example, he's friends with both. He's friends with Joshua Moon from Kiwi Farms, so he's protected from the Kiwis, and he's also friends with Medicare, so he's protected from the Sweeties as well. He's also being buddy-buddy with a bunch of skeptics and such. Like, for example, he had Mark Curran on his show. You might remember that name from Gamergate. And he's since moved on to doing like all kinds of other sophomoric, pseudo-conservative bullshit activism. On top of that, who else has he had on? He said he wants to have an interview with Sargon. He's definitely said that. I definitely heard that clip. I heard him say it. He may have deleted the stream. It was like a 24-hour one. And you're saying he said no. I doubt if he'll. This is what Floyd says in the chat. And you're saying he said no. I doubt he'll talk with anyone, and his show makes bank with just himself, so it doesn't need one guest to make money. Be that as it may, I'm not helping him. I'm not contributing content to his show. Like if I think someone's a grifter, no, they don't get a spot on the show. Like the only way I would agree to go on a show is if he disabled any kind of ad money and if he disabled any kind of super chats whatsoever. If he did that, I'd consider it, but I wouldn't consider interacting with that guy like candidly in good faith, considering all the dumb shit he says. He gets corrected on a constant basis. And also, I've also showed him being like, all defensive of Zoom. Like, does anyone remember that when he was like, trying to say that, oh, what Zoom did was perfectly legal and was completely kosher, A-okay? Yeah, he deleted those tweets because it was a bad look for him because he was an idiot. Oh, well, I'm assuming he's an idiot. I'm just do it in a second. Just propose it to him. I mean, well, like, I'm sorry, no. Like, when it comes to these e-celebs, when I deal with them, the good faith approach, I'm going to put a white hat on, be a good boy. Oh, I'm going to, talk it out with them, whatever issue I have. What tends to happen, what always happens, is that they take you for a ride. They pretend to be in good faith, but they're just sneaky and dishonest about it. Happens every fucking time. Like, you can't trust these people. You can't rely on them to be honest. Because at the end of the day, what are they in for? They're in it to make a buck. And they're in it to make a buck off of you. They're in it so that way you think they're your best friend. They're in it to think that they could be your older brother or your dad or some guy you go to the bar with and drink beers with. That's the kind of impression they want to leave on people. They do this all the time. And, if they weren't such damnable liars, if they weren't such damnable degenerates, if they weren't such disgusting hypocrites, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Maybe I'd just say, you know what? Okay, so they're selling things to people. That's merchandise, whatever. But it's not just that they're like, it's not just that it's goofy gay or whatever. It's that it's disgusts me. It's utterly disgusting the way these people act and behave. And the way they'll take some event like, oh, some guy's down on his luck and he's getting kicked out of cons. Let's see how we can make a bank off of that. Let me see how I can get let me see how I can get like whatever law firm will go ahead and like it's really weird to me. It's really weird to me, this Ty Beard guy, that this law firm they get, Ty Beard guy is like on the show, and this is the lawyer they got for the case. He's suddenly on the show all the time. Like, is this normal? Am I living? Is this like a clown world I'm living? Like, it is a clown world I'm living in, I'm sure. Actually, no, I'm tired of that meme, by the way. I don't think that's a good meme, for reasons I'll get into some other time. But Floyd, I'll read that in a second, Floyd. To return to the thought, the issue is like, why is this Ty Beard guy going on Nick Rekieta's show like 24/7? Like, not 24/7. Like every other show he has, at least he's on the show. He's they're shooting the shit. He's talking about what he does. He's talking about things like the Rand Corporation. He's talking about things like bringing his daughter on, advertising her books. It's promotion for him. It doesn't matter if Ty Beard. Another thing is, it doesn't matter if these guys win or lose the case. If they win the case, they got your money already. If they lose the case, they already got his promotion, etc. Like, it's just, it's the same. Like it's that is not normal. That is not what I expect lawyers to do. Like lawyers should be close to the vest, cool and confident. They shouldn't be braggadocious like all the time. Like yeah, sometimes for public support and opinion, they'll go on there. I can understand that, but like you're going on there constantly, and to what end does that serve? Is there an explanation behind that at all? I just I don't get it. I don't get why that's not an immediate red flag to people. And so if he said to come on with no super chats and you can see he's not collecting money, go on then. I mean, I would at least consider it in that case. But honestly, I'm disinclined to like engage with these people. I really am. But I tell you this much, I definitely wouldn't go on a show like that. And that goes for like honestly, that goes for any of these other chuckle-headed celebs that I talk about here. Like, unless I think that they actually have, unless I think that they have some credibility that they've established, then yeah, that's the only condition that I'd actually consider, like, going on someone else's show like that. Caesar the Ape says, Rekieta said it best himself. Nick is too nice and trusting. Nick and Ty are exploiting him in every way they possibly can. Yeah. That's what I think's going on. Honestly, and the thing you got to ask yourself, if Vic wanted to go ahead and sue these guys, he'd just take his own money and sue them. And honestly, it could be a case where he just didn't know the fundraiser was there, so he didn't say no at first. And then he was like, oh, I can't turn down my fans' money. Something like that was just like happened to fall upon him. I mean, that's possible. I mean, it's not, I shouldn't, like, I mean, I think that one thing I got wrong in my initial assessment was like assuming the worst of Vic in that case. I think that I think that was probably a mistake. So, like, he certainly isn't, I compare him to James Damore. That was completely off the mark. I'll fully admit that. But at the same time, though, as time has gone on, like, Vic can just fund this himself. Like, this lawsuit thing, he doesn't need any more fan support. Like, these guys, and that's another thing. They talk about needing more money to sue more people, to go after more targets and stuff like that. Why? Why is that? Lloyd says, that ape is a fucktard named Thrax, who's just here because his boyfriend Donga got busted up off a clown. Caesar, are you Thrax? I gotta ask. You don't sound like Thrax at all, I'll tell you that much. I know a little bit about Thrax. Apparently, he's this really fat furry who's part of the Kumikard tribe. I mean, man, are those guys autistic. Like, I don't really care to cover them too much in the show. Okay, Caesar says he's not Thrax. Floyd says don't lie. And Uwe says he's Thrax. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have any reason to disbelieve him here. Like, I don't, like, it would be funny if Donga was sending Goon to go ahead and watch my show. I admit that, but I have a funny feeling he's not Thrax. But anyway. But yeah, the Kumikard, like, if they were still relevant, I'd cover them. But at this point, I think that the only reason anyone's gonna, well, that's not true. Not anyone. Like, I know Medicare Fembot likes to pay attention to them because it's funny, but in general, I think that most of the celebs that focus on Donga at this point are just doing it because he's an easy target, a punching bag for to spill out. Donga Tribe, High Nut, or Donga Wheel for Super Bear. Maybe. I don't know. Like, I honestly can't. Like, that's the thing with Donga. He's just chaotic stupid. I don't get why a guy purposefully kills his own show the way he did. Like, he didn't just do some stupid shit, like, once or twice, or he just let his ego his head. No. He purposefully killed his audience, made them dislike him, made himself hateable, not in a way that made him profit. I don't understand. Like, I can understand some of the things that Donga says about he's frustrated about hypocrisy and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, one, he's wrong half the time on that. Like his points are just incorrect at least half the time. And the other thing is guy's just dumb. And the worst part is he thinks he's clever. I think that's the stupidest part about it. Donga strikes me as the kind of guy who's legitimately retarded but thinks he's clever. Yeah. Anyway. This hearing here is also another indication that Ty Beard is not competent at this. And it's going to take me a little while. I tried my best to find the PDF for this, or like a document of this. Unfortunately, these screenshots are all I could find. But they're showing Nick Rekieta's show, so it's not like these are good or whatever. If I can find the PDF, I'll definitely add that to the link. All right. So it begins the proceedings. Court says, y'all can be seated. Oh, and also Caesar has confessed to being Thrax. I guess that solves that mystery. But people are now saying I should focus on the Rekieta show. So I guess your cover was blown, Caesar. Sorry about that. Or not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know at all. All right, let's continue. The court says, y'all can be seated. Y'all are fighting over some dispositions, right? This is from the court here being, of course, the judge. Mr. Eric says, that's right, Your Honor. That's the point of this hearing. Eric is the guy representing defendants in this hearing. Mr. Bullock, of course, is part of Ty Beard's law firm, which is Ty, Bullock, Hughes, and someone else. I forget the other person. And Mr. Bullock says, actually, that's not correct. We have asked the court for a confidentiality order. Judge says, okay, hold on. Bullock says, okay. Judge says, so we're not going to talk about... Second, like I said, these images, these are the best I could do for this, but trust me, it's worth it. Not going to talk about the dispositions at all. Well, I think, are we here to talk about some dispositions? Might. Okay, so you are not going to mention the word disposition to me. I will, yes, sir. So we are here to talk about dispositions then. Let's start over. Are we here to talk about some dispositions? Yes, sir. Great. Okay. So defendant knows some dispositions and plaintiff has filed a motion to quash. Is that correct? Mr. Eric says that's correct. Bullock says yes. And the judge says, and then plaintiff also would like to enter a confidentiality and protective order. I assume you wanted to quash the disposition? Bullock. We did, but the date came and went. And this continues. Judge says, okay. Bullock says, we're amenable to rescheduling at the disposition. Our purpose here today is to ask the court for a confidentiality order. Judge says, okay. And you oppose it? Eric says, we do, Your Honor, for several reasons. Do you want me to get into it now? Judge says, sure. Eric says, they don't attach or include any evidence with the request, which is required. Cite the case law that clearly states that if you want a protective order, to show and demonstrate a specific reason for doing that. They don't attach any kind of evidence. And also, Your Honor, the biggest picture behind all this is that this case is very, very unique. It involved anime actors. I mean, if you know that, Judge says, no, I mean, I read it, and I mean, I think I know what that means. It's little cartoons of some sort, and they're Japanese, right? Yeah, this judge is definitely from the South. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind. This guy, yeah, I think it's just, and the fact that the matter is that he says y'all, yeah. No one says that unless you're from the South. Unless you're some weirdo like me. Eric says, there you go. Judge says yes. So here's the issue. Back a bit. Actually, I don't think I ever say y'all. But I do type it out every once in a while. Which again, that's just kind of weird. Eric says, so here's the issue. Is, let's see. Okay, here we go. So here's the issue: is that we have, for a very long time, months and months, we have their party or their group talking about this on Twitter. Obviously, if you're a public figure and they have to talk about the case, and they often asked about this case, you don't want a confidentiality order because, one, it's already out there. Genie is out of the bottle. This case has been talked about over and over. Been a YouTube show from a lawyer in Minnesota. It's complicated, I know. But they keep talking about this, so it's all out there. Certainly our clients are, my client, Monica Ryle, she has to talk about this case. She makes a living in the public realm. So I think a confidentiality order be a very untenable thing to do. And in addition to that, we have people that are giving statements, sworn statements. It says a gag order is different than a confidentiality order. Confidentiality order is an order usually that has some type of sensitive documents like tax returns. Those are confidential. I'm not asking for a gag order, so I think we'll talk about it. On here. And in addition to that, we have people that are giving statements, sworn statements. Judge says a gag order is different than a confidentiality order. Confidentiality order is an that has some type of sensitive documents like tax returns or something, and those are confidential. He's not asking for a gag order, but I think you can still talk about it. Eric says, my understanding is they want a confidentiality order on the disposition of the, and our position is, well, you filed a lawsuit. You're claiming defamation. You can't take the good, good and not take the bad with it. Now, we want to be able to obviously use that testimony in the court proceedings. We don't want to disseminate it in the public domain. We want to use it in the court proceedings. But again, Your Honor, we just don't feel that that is even practical to have a confidentiality agreement. The fact that we have public figures that are necessarily they're going to talk about this case. I don't see how we can prevent them from doing it. Judge says, who is the public figure? Eric says, Vic Mingo, I suddenly forgot how to pronounce it. Vic. Judge says, okay. And my client, Monica Ryle. Okay. They're both anime voice actors. So it's a new world for me too. And they have a Twitter presence. They have an online presence. Now, just reading this, like this whole thing, just aside from like, my disagreements with the lawyers here, it's just funny to me. Like this whole thing about like suing someone over tweets and internet shit, it's just goofy. Like, yeah, sure. I know it should be taken with a level of seriousness. It's not just null and void because it's on the internet. Not arguing that, but the way that they're going about it, their lack of understanding and how the internet works in general, etc., and explaining this basic stuff to the judge, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. Judge says, okay. Eric says, oh, I really don't like these screenshots. I wish I could find a better source. Judge says, do you have a copy of the confidentiality or protective order that you want? Because I didn't see one attached. Bullock says, no, sir, we proposed it. And we emailed it to counsel yesterday as a proposed agreed order. The only thing I changed was the title of it. Instead of being agreed protective order to a discovery confidentiality, may I approach your order, Honor? Judge says, sure. Bullock continues, and I would like to clarify some of the statements my opponent made when it's my turn. Judge says, okay, hold on. So I assume that any motions that are filed in this case that would require the use of deposition testimony experts in it, they would have to do it under a temporary seal. Bullock says, yes, sir. That's what we would propose is a temporary seal. Judge says, and then you're going to file a motion to seal the case, I guess, and notify the newspapers and everybody in the world that you want as this to seal the case. Bullock says, if we have to go through the process under 176, yes, we'd have to do it. Yes, we would have to do that. That is distinct from this request. This is just a request that would govern the practices. Sorry. This is just a request that would govern the parties' use of information that they glean during discovery. Something is confidential, the court mentioned tax returns. There are also non-party identities that are going to have to be brought up because one of the defendants, Mr. Toye, has said he knows hundreds, if not thousands of people have complaints. Well, if that's true, we have to investigate that. Those people are entitled because they have not put themselves into this case, put themselves into the public forum, to have those identities protected. The judge says, yes, yeah, I don't think that, I agree with you in the sense that I think that all the cases ought to be like that. Do have open courts and anyone can do this. Bullock says, correct. The judge says, and so I don't think that there is anything special about this case other than actual confidential information. And if there is that, I think that's great. All right, just to pause for a second. I don't get, this is a weird thing. This really comes across to me like the whole reason they want confidentiality because they want to hide something. Because these guys are really, really open about their stuff in general. They have no objections to digging up on people to encourage other people to look through, see what information they can gain off of others, etc. They're not really, but suddenly when they go to court, they're concerned. They express this over concern for privacy of people who might be brought up by the defendants. That just seems really weird to me. I don't see why they would want to protect people who are associated with the defendant's side. That's just wasting resources to help protect the enemy. Like, if this is some really weird 4D chess maneuver, like to say, oh, well, we tried to levy protections, but it's too bad some of this information that's all public now just got out there. I don't know if it's an intimidation tactic. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on with this. It's just really weird that they would go through this talk about an issue that just seems not to be even relevant to the hearing itself, or at least in the judge's mind doesn't seem relevant because it was originally about motions, like other motions and such, not this mumbo jumbo about confidentiality and protecting things. Continuing. And Mr. Bullock says, correct. And judge says, but it's another example. If he says in his disposition, I don't really like anime, do you think that's going to be put on Facebook? Bullock says, correct. So what am I doing? And the judge says, so what am I doing? Bullock says, so the process in this order would be if one party, for example, not specifically asking it for the disposition. You're asking it for the case. Maybe documents, tax returns, for example, defendant Funimation, their conduct and investigation, which they told our client was confidential. Presumably, they're going to want to maintain the confidentiality of some of that investigation. This order would do that. To the extent that party disagrees with the defamation, they can ask the court to, in a sense, declassify it. And then we could have the discussion with the court about whether that is information that should be protected under the order or not. Okay, so pause right here. What is in the Funimation investigation that plaintiff party, that Vic's party doesn't want to let out? Does anyone else find that weird? That they would want to, like, kind of put a protective order on releasing things in the Funimation investigation specifically? One that Funimation specifically said they conducted and concluded that Vic was a harasser or whatever. I don't get it. Something's really weird with this request, and it's just really odd to me. But the order sets the framework that we have. They may ask a question, or we may. But the order sets the framework that we have. They may ask a question, or we may ask a question during the deposition that the other side doesn't want publicly disseminated. We're not asking to chill anybody's First Amendment rights. It's funny he has to go out of his way to say that also. We're not asking for a gag order. We're asking for a framework that allows them to say that is confidential, and in a sense, retain the confidential information until the court can decide whether or not it is properly described as confidential. Judge says, what does prior restraint mean? Bullock asks, prior restraint? I think we might have learned that in law school a long time ago. isn't that saying that I'm preventing you from dissenting something before you've done it, and therefore I'm violating your First Amendment rights or something like that? Eric responds with, something like that, Your Honor. I think you're on the right track. Now, see, the judge just does not take this guy seriously. He thinks that he's full of shit as well. And the fact that he says this line here, yeah, that's proof of that. Like, judge thinks, like, I already, like, at this point here, like, it continues a bit. But from this point here on screen, it's really clear the judge is not taking this guy this Bullock character serious, and he thinks that this part is a waste of his time and not according to procedure. It's like the judge in whatchamacallit that movie. Like the real life equivalent of that judge from My Cousin Vinny. It's like guilty or not guilty, and the guy just keeps on prattling on about instead of just answering the question of one of the two. And yeah, this really does seem like stonewalling, which I strongly suspect that it is within Ty Beard's and Nick Rekieta's interests to milk this case as long as possible. In fact, let me rephrase that. It is in their interest to milk this case as long as possible, because Ty Beard gets money from the GoFundMe. Every donation is going to go to his account. Now, how much of that is actually being spent on expenses on the case, we don't know. There's no transparency as to what's being done with the money. Like all these lawsuits, even if you think this is legit, even if you believe this is legit, if you believe 100% of what I'm saying here is just wrong, you'll have to agree with this bit. Because it's a fact. There's no transparency with what happens to the money. Now, you could say, well, there's good reason for that because, like, they're lawyers and stuff. Whatever. Point is, you don't know what they're doing with the money. You don't. I don't know what they're doing. They could be spending it on cocktails. Maybe they're putting it in, like, a big bank account where they can save it. Or maybe it's just a slush fund. You don't really know. If I had to bet money, I'd say it's a slush fund. Like, it's really ambiguous as to what's being done with it. So if the lawsuit continues, Ty Beard keeps getting money through the GoFundMe. Nick funnels it to him. And Nick gets lots of money in super chats because of all the exposure he's getting from the scandal. Because Nick's show is #1 for covering this on the on YouTube. Like, forget which side. On YouTube, Nick's show is the most popular show for covering this case. So yeah, stonewalling tactics like this, like having a dumb confidentiality order that's like claiming to be in favor of like the defendants. Yeah, that's just straight. Like, expect more of that. It's like insert like for yeah. Okay, continuing. Okay. Eric says, and it's also not workable for us because we have witness statements coming out from women. They're going to talk about their experience with this individual, and we don't want any confidentiality order. We don't want a protective order for that. Or do they? So right here, the defendant defense lawyer, sorry, saying that they don't want a confidentiality order or whatever. So this whole thing is just something really weird. Either they're covering something, or they're trying to cover something in the future, they're stonewalling, or maybe a combination of A and B, or who knows. It just seems really bad strategy here. Eric says, and it's also not workable for us because we have witness statements that are coming out from women that are going to talk about their experience with this individual. Don't want a confidentiality order. Don't want a protective order for that, and neither do they. They want their names out there. Want their names known. So we want the ability to put that information out there. It could be a part of our pleadings. So that is another concern that we have. And there is a lot more background, Your Honor. And just so you know, that so far, every time we have seemed to file something in this case, it seems to go on YouTube, on a YouTube video, or it's on a Twitter feed. So this idea, it's a little disingenuous that judge says, am I on YouTube right now? Eric says, you'll probably be discussed later today. Well, I guess that's ironic, although it's not the same day, I guess. But yesterday we filed the response to this motion. The very next day, it's part of a 3.5-hour YouTube video, and I am even mentioned in. Judge says, was it any good? It's all right. It's entertaining. That's a pretty funny exchange there. Bullock says, "But we have no control over that." Why do I smell a rat here? Like, it's very obvious that this 3.5-hour YouTube video, almost certainly, I could be wrong because there are other YouTubers on the I Stand with Vic side who are covering this as well, and they may have very lengthy videos, but from the way he describes this, it's a case of what do you call it? This is Nick's show. I don't think it's wrong for me to say this is Nick's show he's describing. But here he's saying, the lawyer's part of this team is saying, but we have no control over that. I mean, you could just tell Nick to not cover the case unless it's against your interest in doing so. You could stop having Ty Beard, the guy who's leading this case, go on the show to discuss the things you're saying that you have no control over. Is it wrong for me to call this response kind of dishonest? Like, he's lying through his teeth here? Anyway. Further. Eric says, well, whatever, but the information is getting, we disagree with that, Your Honor. We think that the information is getting there from counsel. Judge says, let me ask you this. What do you want in this lawsuit? Want money? And then Bullock says, actually, what we want is to defend our client's name to get his reputation repaired. And this is the part where you know the judge really is not taking this guy seriously at all. Can a court do that? And Bullock says, if the practices will agree to issue some joint statements, we might actually be able to get there pretty quickly. Judge says, what do you want them to say that's not a bad, say that he's not a bad guy or something to that effect? Bullock says, something to the effect that they've called him a predator. They've called him a sexual harasser. They've called him all sorts of things that are not true. Now this man now that has this cloud of being called a predator, an attacker, an assaulter. And I mean, in this notebook, we've got 200 pages of tweets from Mr. Toye and Miss Rael, almost 400 pages of tweets calling him names and saying he's a child molester. I mean, these are things that the judge says, but what can this court do at the end of the day? We're going to have a jury charge. Book says yes. And the jury charge is going to say what that is going to fix that. It's a really clunky charge is going to say what that is going to fix that. That's a really good sentence. Book says two things. Your Honor, we're asking for monetary damages. Okay. But what we would really like to have is an injunction against further talking about, these things about our client. Judge says a lot of people would probably like that. And then Bullock says, if we can't get that, then damages are the only thing the court can. I mean, if we could work out a deal with the other side, that would be fantastic. But I think if we can't, then the jury is left to award damages. Judge says, do your clients want to tweet about him a lot more? And Eric says, we have told them not to. Judge says, well, then you're already accepted their agreement. Eric says, there you go. That's right. Judge says, I mean, seriously, if that's what they want and you told your clients not to do it anymore, they're okay with that, then aren't we done? Eric says, and also, I don't know why my clients are all only ones here. The entire universe of anime tweets about this individual, and they have been doing it for the last decade. Well, this is also another good point. This isn't just a thing that started with these animation. These rumors have been going on for a while. Like, they're not lying about that. Like, the rumors are questionable, don't get me wrong. And it's probably the case that none of these witnesses are, and it's very, like, it's not certain that any of these allegations are true. Like, that's the reality. Like, it's not even like a really can't, like, it's not really a judgment call that, like, good to make. But the rumors have been around for a while. And as such, like silencing 3 people isn't going to make the rumor stop. It isn't going to make Anime News Network stop. It isn't going to make IO9 stop. It isn't going to make people speculate and have their own opinions and conclusions about this. Like, that's the thing that can't really happen. People are going to decide what they want at the end of the day. And you could argue about presumption of innocence and etc. And you're probably right. There probably should be this presumption of innocence should probably be a thing among the public as well as in the beyond the legal system. But at the same time, though, I don't 100% agree with that. I honestly don't. I honestly believe that people should be able to come up with their own opinions about things, about criminal behavior or disgusting behavior, without having a judge say what the facts are, without having the state decide what the truth is for the populace. Like, and realistically, there are plenty of people that you would agree with that too. For example, Clinton never formally charged with a crime. We know she's guilty. We know what she did. We know the evidence damns her. But she was never charged with a crime. Yeah, you're not going to hear the presumption of innocence or like, oh, well, there's no files charged against Clinton, therefore it's okay. There was an investigation, sure, it uncovered evidence and such, but no formal charges, no court of law, etc. And you could say, well, that's an extreme example. There's plenty of other examples. People disagree with the O.J. Simpson case all the time. Are they wrong? Wasn't O.J. Simpson exonerated? How about that pedophile R. Kelly? Isn't he exonerated as well? Those are cases that went to trial and the defendants won. So, no, I don't think that this this Supreme Courtroom standard is what people really want at the end of the day. I don't even think that people are saying that really want that. But I do think that they want like some kind of fairness. So that way someone's not just called a pedophile or sexual harasser out of the blue at random. Like, I think that's what they ultimately want, that there has to be some basis for it, and it can't just be hearsay or whatever. It has to be some evidence to back it up. Even if it's like, I think that's what they mean or want. But still, I don't see how like suing these people, well, I guess if they're sued, actually no, I'll take that back. If they are sued, it will show for the record that yeah, they got caught for defamation. So it'll probably make the other people just stop making these accusations that are baseless, etc. Judge continues, I don't either. I mean, it gets expensive the more people you add to a lawsuit, but Eric says, right. I know it's, Bullock says, we have to pass the deal with too, Your Honor. Going forward, yes, it sounds like that may, oh, I'm sorry. Judge says, I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out, I mean, I doubt you have drafted your jury charge because it is so early in the case, but I'm just I'm wondering what the end game is for this. I mean, is there a question on a jury charge where I can join them for each? Bullock says, well, we can enjoin them from defaming him. They can still speak, but we could also get damages against them. We have asked for over $1 million in damages. Judge says, I mean, there's stuff said about me that I consider defamatory, but I doubt others necessarily would. So you get somewhere on that. Already said they're public. Sorry about that. Get somewhere on that. And you already said they're public figures, right? And so then that gets really hard. Really hard because they're public figures. So those tweets, Your Honor. This is Bullock speaking. And it's not just the tweets, Your Honor. Judge says yes. They have communicated with these conventions, and they have convinced these conventions to cancel their contract with him. Talking about actual monetary loss of money, Eric says, what started all this, Your Honor, is that Mr. Mongoya was fired because of the sexual harassment allegations. Judge says, allegedly. Eric says, allegedly, of course, right. Court's judge says, I think this is a motion to seal. Bullock says, Judge, we're not trying to seal anything. Judge says, but I think it is, because I think that confidentiality is limited, because if you're asking basically to steal everything and they cannot disclose anything that is in this, and nobody can see it either. And Bullock says, we're happy for the opportunity to designate it as confidential. There are specific uses for information or specific disclosure parameters for information to be designated as confidential. Judge says, same thing for a motion to, and the same thing for a motion to seal. So yeah, the judge is telling him right off the bat, this is a motion to seal. The guy's arguing with the judge saying, well, no, it actually isn't. It's something different. And he goes on with this. Except we're not asking to seal the court record. The judge responds with, well, I understand that, because then you've got to post and all that stuff. Everybody will know that you did it. The Star Telegram might want to come down and see what's going on. So he's calling him out. So the judge here is calling him out as bullshit. And Bullock can only respond with, sorry, what? I said the newspaper might want to come down and see what's going on. Bullock says, exactly. Judge says, but if you do this, you don't have to deal with the newspaper bothering you. Eric says, Your Honor, it's a little problematic here because their motion doesn't ask to seal it. Judge says, no, I know it doesn't, but that's the effect of it, really. Eric says, right. And yeah, the judge is not buying this. He smells something's fishy here. And as I did reading the records and seeing the judge's reaction to this, and it's like, I don't get it. Like maybe Nick Rekieta has said on the show why. We'll find out later exactly what Nick Rekieta's spin on all this is. But I hope they don't think this is a good look for them. Because as a start, this is a dud. This is a real strikeout right here. And it gets worse. Judge says, because any document that you would file in this case that you receive through dispositions or through discovery are going to have to be under seal. They would have to be filed them. Otherwise, they're a public record. Eric says, right. And so you're getting to the point where it's sealed anyway. So why not just do it all at once and seal the whole thing? Eric says, for the reasons we've said, Your Honor. Or a judge says, I don't disagree with you. I think that if stuff was embarrassing to you, I don't think that makes it confidential. Eric says, correct. Judge says, I think stuff that's confidential is your business dealings and your tax returns like that. Says, correct. I think that stuff that's confidential is your business, like deal, etc. Judge continues. So if he says that I really don't like Japanese anime on his deposition, I think they can post that on Facebook. And Mr. Bullock says, correct, absolutely. Judge says, then what is this order? And Bullock says, but we're talking about tax returns. We're talking about Funimation's investigation. Again, there it is again. We're talking about Funimation's investigation. Why does that need to be sealed? Or not sealed, but effectively sealed? What needs to be hidden about Funimation's investigation that Vic's team wants to tie this down? That's the question I have in my mind from this. I don't know if it's something suspicious or not. I don't know if that's a big, I think it is. No, let me rephrase that. It definitely is suspicious that they want to hide it. I don't know why they want to hide it. I can speculate, but it's really weird. It's really weird to me that they want that hidden, because if there's a smoking gun in there, like they claim there is, that Nick Rekieta ranted on about, that I played previously, you'd want that blown open. You'd want that thing everywhere. You want the investigation shown, because if that investigation is fraudulent, if that investigation relies on lies and defamation, etc., put it out there. Sing it from the rooftops. Let everyone know what Fun Investigation found. They investigated this matter. That's what I say. If you want to go ahead, if you want to, sunlight is a good disinfectant, so go use it. I don't see why you would want to keep that confidential. Continuing. Talk about the identity of the people that have not come forward that may or may not want to be put in the public domain. Judge says, hold on. Eric says, here's a solution. But on a case-by-case basis then. I mean, we don't need to enter an order today that says that the case is sealed, or, we're guessing on what's confidential. I haven't seen any tax returns. There have been no documents produced in the case that tell me they want it to be confidential. So if they have things that they want to keep confidential, why not put the burden on them to come back to this court and say, we want this to be sealed, this specific thing. And the defense attorney is not wrong in this. This makes a whole lot more sense and is in line with civil proceedings than what this other guy's proposing. Judge says, I mean, we have the cases where they have proprietary information, and we do confidentiality agreements, and everybody understands that. Eric says, right. Well, let's do that when that comes up, not just at the very beginning. We have a confidentiality order that we don't know what it applies to. If they have tax records, if those are okay, I think we're almost done here. In fact, I think I'll skip that to the fun. See if I can. Okay. Honestly, I think I went on to. Okay, yeah. All right, when Beard stands up. Okay. All right, so skipping over like next few pages going here. Let's get them nailed down right now. What about the I saw there was some emails back and forth, I think, about the document request, and he said don't worry about, or one of y'all said don't worry about the document request. Eric says he did. Bullock says, you notice, the subpoena was inadvertently attached. Judge says, I'll tell you what I have. I got substantial trials set every week in June, which I'll be here, assuming they don't settle. And so if you can't go into our I'll find another room for the courthouse to do it in. All right, this is just selling this. So skipping the part where Beard speaks up. Your Honor, Judge says, are you a lawyer? And responds with, yes, sir. Judge says, okay. I'm Ty Beard. I'm sorry I didn't. Okay, I thought you were. And the judge says, okay, I thought you were the client. Okay. And Beard responds with, I'm senior partner of your firm, so of our firm. So the judge responds, perfect. Okay, you should be standing up doing this. Beard and that's just the judge is not taking this case seriously. Judge is not friendly at all to the plaintiff here. Like, and I think this tells the what his opinion is, like the outlook of this case. Yeah, it's like there's just no like. This is the thing. This bumbling, this court proceeding is really, really bad. And then it continues. We have no problem with the order in which the dispositions are taken. Judge says, okay. And Beard says, but here's the problem. They're entitled to file an anti-slap motion. And what Mr. Eric and I went back and forth on was, I don't mind them going first. Never agreed to that. But I don't want them filing the anti-slap motion 5 minutes after we give our disposition. And then the discovery stage kicks in. They can put the contents of that disposition out on the internet. Frankly, if they don't want a confidentiality order, that's fine, as long as we get to depose them, because then we have mutually assured destruction. Yeah, see, it's got that 4D chess strategy all laid out in the court. Yep, it's gonna totally win it. The judge says, okay, yeah, he's not going to file an anti-slap motion prior to your client getting to depose their client. Eric says, and we agree with that. Says, then we're done. Judge says, okay. Apparently it was an off-the-record discussion that was not recorded. Says, want to pin down the disposition dates? Judge says, okay. If y'all want to do the disposition here, that's fine. And then I'll rule on real objections, not just form or whatever, but real objections that are going to slow this down. Instructions not to answer, let's say. Bullock says, okay. Judge says, okay, I'll be happy to do that. Y'all need to let Jeff know so we can figure out where to. Says, Your Honor, actually, as the disposition here, that's fine. And then I'll rule on the real objection. Oh, here it is. Your Honor, actually, as long as we can do these dispositions, don't have to do it here. Judge says, I want your guy to answer all the questions that you object to, or that you instruct him not to answer. I want to rule on those right then. Says, right, I guess what I'm saying, Your Honor, I don't anticipate objecting to anything as long as we get to depose their clients. Judge says, well, what was this confidentiality thing you just gave me? And says, well, that was if they went first and then filed their anti-slap motion and put the discovery stay in place. Bullock says, well, it was also because tax return contacts and think it's best to have the disposition here, so that if we have a question that comes up that is controversial, we can ask the court to rule on that right there. That says, okay, David can show you all the jury so you can see what it looks like. Okay, you all check that out. The judge completely laughed him off and blew him off in that proceeding. He did not take this guy seriously. He was very flippant with them, and he was like, yeah, you guys don't know what you're doing. You're terrible at this. And honestly, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's just Ty sending letters to people. I wish I had those up. I thought I did, but he told he told one of the defendants that calling Vic Mignogna a pile of shit was factually incorrect. He is not a pile of feces, and that's defamation because it's untrue and it's malicious. And then to another one, he said, "Oh, well, because he used some kind of hyperbole about about what Jesus would say." He said, "Oh, well, Jesus would strike him down to a lightning bolt or something to that effect, like that." And he said, "Not only is that defamation, but that's also blasphemy." Which, I mean, if this wasn't real life, if this was just like, if this was something, if this was not, if this wasn't just completely, it's. I have to give the guy props. He wants to sue him. He wants to financially ruin a man for blaspheming God. I gotta respect that just a little bit. But reality is, but kidding aside, the reality is that's nothing to do with defamation. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. Like, he can use hyperbole and say that he should be. That's what Jesus would say, and it's not legally actionable, which is my complaint. I mean, yeah, it's wrong to blaspheme. Not wrong with that, but it's also not illegal. Like, I have no idea what any of the I Stand With Vic crowd do to possibly spin that. I just don't know. Okay, there's a couple other things on Ty I want to show before heading out. I did want to show some other things, get into a little bit more in depth, but I don't want the stream to last too long. So this is Ty Beard's webpage, the web archive link, on April 5th, 2019. Now note the date. Most of this is really unimportant. It's just a basic lawyer description page. You find this with agencies, work with them, etc. There's nothing really wrong with this page taking it on its own. Now, there's a reason why I'm showing one from the past, though. This paragraph here says, Ty's an experienced business attorney, blah, blah, blah. And it gives a list of things that he's competent and good at. This is practice areas, and list of practice areas he's good at. Skip over to first. Now, just a couple weeks later, after he took the case, after it was announced that he would be in the case, maybe some time had passed. Maybe it wasn't exactly at the same time, but just within that relative time period. Okay, so this paragraph doesn't actually change. I thought it added something to it. Look at practice areas. Then we get defamation and tortious interference. Now, there's an easy defense for this, to be fair. That easy defense would be absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Sure, maybe Ty Beard has had cases where he's sued people for defamation and also has sued people for tortious interference. Maybe he's even won those cases. It's possible. I'm not going to deny that. However, given the timing of this change, given this addition here, I don't think that's the case. I think he's referring to this recent case they took up recently. That makes logical sense to me. It's not a sound 100% exact theory, but given his incompetence that has been on display so far, and his inability to at both the courtroom for this case, also in those cease and desist letters. I know that's not technically the right term. Someone's probably gonna correct me in a whole slew of things in the comments section. I implore them to do so. If I get shit wrong, I want people to correct me. I do not want me to say things and then people just don't challenge them. That's retarded. Especially, well, what I'm wrong with it is if I'm right, well, doing. But anyway, yeah, that's really suspect to me that he'd add these two things just after got this new case. Really does make me suspect he's tooting his own horn. It's a little too much. There's also this clip that a lot of the there's also something else that Ty likes to do that's demonstrating this clip that the SJW types, the progressive liberals that are part of the Kick Vic crowd to get upset over, but they're not for the right reason. And play the clip and I'll explain why.
Litigation, because we don't have quite enough yet, but it's more a matter of just assembling it. And by the way, I want to thank all the people that are sending us discovery. We can't reply to you guys for a number of reasons, but keep it coming. And Kiwi Farms, love you guys. Y'all are doing great work. Nick gave me a link to your site, and it's excellent work. Y'all just keep sending that, because you're giving us a tremendous strategic advantage over our enemies. We're going to hit the ground when we file with basically all the discovery that's out there.
Okay, so there's two important things to take away from that clip. One, Tybeard's an idiot who uses a gossip forum for his resources and legal stuff and news and tips on the case and investigatory leads. Which, to be fair, I mean, perhaps people to be fair, people do use that. Investigators do use such gossip tips as leads and such like that, etc. But they don't use them as a primary resource like he's bragging about in the clip. That's for sure. And the other thing that's really weird about that, the thing that's really makes me go, hey, that's kind of gross. And no, it's not that Kiwi Farms is a doxing site. It's not that Kiwi Farms has a reputation behind it. That's not it. Although that does raise a few red flags there. Why would a lawyer be associating himself with Kiwi Farms? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, just kind of weird. But anyway, that's not really the issue. The real issue is, he says it's excellent work. He's using Kiwi Farms and the people who are supporting I Stand With Vic, this lawsuit, the people who are supporting the GoFundMe, giving money into it, he's using them as a free resource in place of paralegal. Instead of actually hiring, because, that's the thing that lawyers do, is they have paralegal teams and other researchers and secretaries that work under them that they pay money, except maybe the interns or except if they're yes. But in general, they pay them money, go ahead and look this shit up for them and get all their ducks lined up in a row. Yeah, and they pay $200,000 for this. So realistically, this guy is just, it's another case where these dipshit e-celebs just use their audience as a resource so they don't have to do work, so they don't have to pay money, so they can just coast while their audience just does, while they exploit their audience like they're cheap labor. And I know that and this is not at all the same as like when because Jim has done this a couple times where he said that, hey, can someone from Kiwi Farms post this or that? Jim's not a lawyer who's taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from the public for this case or something like that. So that's not a really comparable thing, in case anyone wants to bring that up. But this guy is being paid all this money to do this, and using what? The only way that would be funnier is if he congratulated Cal. That would be the only way that would make that funnier. I guarantee Cal would not put up with that shit. They would not. Kiwi Farms, of course they would, because they're a bunch of little bitches who want to get as much attention and fame to themselves as possible, and they genuinely don't give a shit. I mean, let me rephrase that. They genuinely have no self-respect. Actually, no, I take that back. I shouldn't say that, because not all of them are like that, but a lot of them do fall for this trap of this stupid fanboy A-Celeb X or Side X, etc. And they just blindly join on with it, and they just use it as not as a place to laugh at people dumb shit on the internet necessarily, but a place to pick whichever side they're on, use it as a third-party battleground where doxing's cool shit, and everywhere else, well, we shouldn't do doxing, guys. It's bad. Let's just do it secretly over here. Let's not pretend that e-celebs just do that. It's pretty much everybody. Well, not everybody. A lot of people do that shit. Cal just doesn't give a fuck. They just don't. They give zero fuck. God bless them. All right. I guess that wraps up for tonight. I did want to go into some other stuff. This is probably going to be the most. I don't give a shit if it's controversial or not. I don't care if about that. I do regret not showing a lot of the other stuff in this case. This probably means I'm going to do a follow-up stream. I'm going to say sometime this week. All right, I'm not even going to say sometime this week because the time I announce the stream, it's always late. It's always off the time mark. I do have some other faggots I want to talk about. Hearing some rumors about Geek Cthulhu. Go into that a little bit more detail on the next stream. And aside from that, I'll be just talking about this more again, because I guess the main takeaway I want to have for tonight is, if you're on the I Stand With Vic side, if you are supporting Vic, by the way, I am not part of that degenerate crap of Kick Vic. Fuck those cunts. I'm not going to go ahead and advocate that the guy get banned or get removed from every single con off of things of which, honestly, in my like just to be absolutely clear, I don't know that Vic is guilty of anything. I don't know for certain, and it's wrong of me to just go ahead and condemn the guy because of hearsay. So I won't, unless some other clear and convincing, unless some clear evidence comes out that's a little bit more clear than what I've been seeing so far. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. Sure, where there's smoke, there's fire, but you know what? 10 years of 10 years of rumors might sound really bad, but given this is the internet and a whole bunch of these people are anonymously giving these allegations on Tumblr blogs and stuff like that, it's perfectly well possible that all of them are just salacious rumors that people are using just to get the guy kicked from conventions. We know that these libshits do this. We know what they like to do. So let's not pretend that it's impossible. People. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy at all. Just to be clear about that. I'm not saying it's people meeting in secret, stuff like that, and playing this out for 10 plus years. However, what's more than likely is that people do independently come up with false accusations. It's possible, especially when they're all incredulous, especially when it's over an 11-year period. It's at least 11 years. So, no, I will not condemn Vic as a sexual harasser unless I can see some kind of convincing evidence that's more than what I've seen so far. Just to be clear on that. But I'm also not going to join this I Stand With Vic crowd because they're also a bunch of faggots. Realistically, they don't know what they're doing. They fall for these tricks every single time. They're looking for hope, and all they find is false hope. They don't use their heads. They don't think for a second. You know what would be a kick-ass way to get back at these people? Instead of taking this $200,000 that you already spent collectively, you put it all into this guy's, you put it on this base lawyer man from Minnesota who put in this base lawyer man Texas account. Instead of doing that, take the money and fund a con or 4 or 5. Easily fund a few cons with that money. So yeah. And honestly, don't give them any more money. If you stand by your decision of giving them money, wait until this case plays out before giving them any more money because they have more. I guarantee they have more than enough. And if that's not enough for them, Vic can supplement the rest. His net worth is $4 million. He's still going to cons. He's still making money. He'll still get new. The guy has 20 years of experience. He will continue to get work. People will still hire him. It will still happen. He'll be fine. I'm sure of it. As such, let him fund the rest of it. All right. Ending the stream with this note, more so than usual. Actually, I'm going to say several statements, just to be clear. One, I am not a lawyer, which means I probably fucked a bunch of shit up saying this. However, I don't think I fucked most of it up. But if you want to correct me on anything on that, any kind of legal matter, you want to back up with sources, go ahead. 2, more so than usual, I try to say this every stream. I don't think I've said it every single one, but if I got anything wrong, you can leave a comment, or if you think that I missed out on a fact or two or something like that, or if I got something incorrect, put it in the comment section below. You can hit me up on Twitter and show me the evidence there, or go to the Discord and post it there. You're welcome to join. All right, with all that out of the way, next stream will happen hopefully soon. Hopefully a little bit more prepared than this one. And I'll be talking about this again in the next stream. I'll also be talking about some other stuff. So, see you then, and peace out. Have a good night.